We're going to get started here. Welcome to our first information session on the Mobile Technology Insertion Program. I'm the program director with GENEDGE, Scott Shine. We're going to go over a lot of information here in the next 30 minutes, just some real quick virtual meeting hygiene. For the first 10 to 15 minutes, we'll have the audience muted. We can just get through some of this material just to give you an idea, a little more detail on the program, what we're doing here that's so unique, and then open up the floor to questions, and then we'll unmute the mics, and really that's the point of this meeting today. I'm also accompanied here by some of our GenEdge team. One of our marketing leads, Jeanette Stevens, is joining us here, so you may have seen some of her social media outreach, and she's going to continue to be a marketing lead for this program in the weeks to come. So overview on the program and the origins of this program. In full disclosure on myself, just some quick background. Prior to joining GenEdge a year and a half ago, I was the owner-operator of an aerospace manufacturing company here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a huge advocate of figuring out ways for small and mid-sized manufacturers to modernize, leverage advanced manufacturing technologies. These are all great things to say, but difficult to do when you're a decision maker for a small and mid-sized manufacturer. So the intent of this program, the primary intent, is to serve as a catalyst for inserting advanced manufacturing technologies into small and mid-sized manufacturing operations. As you all know on here, workforce is the word of the day, and it directly relates to that as well as it pertains to upskilling the current workforce, generating more value out of the current workforce, which reduces the need to constantly hire. That never completely goes away, as you know, but what it also does is it improves retention, but also increases the skill profile of those you're bringing in. So multiple goals here as outlined in this first bullet point here. So I'm excited about the program. It's been a work in progress here for about a year, and we're excited to move forward on the program. So in order to make this happen, we need an extensive group of partners. GenEdge is relatively small, a small economic development group. We get a lot done for a small group, but we need a fairly broad array of partners and service providers to make this work. And we'll discuss, if you've read the RFI, you've seen some of the details on what are the service areas we're looking for. One of my goals today is to connect those service areas to this program to just give you an idea of how they fit a little more, but this program will not work without those resources around the mobile facility. Initially, the funding is coming through the Department of Defense, so obviously that is a focus, an initial focus for the program. Future years, maybe more broadly commercial, but as everyone on this call knows, lots of suppliers are included in the industrial base, the defense industrial base, especially here in Virginia. So I don't think we're going to be in positions where we're turning anyone away and taking advantage of this program. Where we are in the funding, the initial round of $10 million was approved in the recently passed federal budget. This is a little bit different than your typical acquisition process, which I'm accustomed to in my previous life. This is much more of an R&D bucket of funding, which means there's a white paper and a proposal process in addition to that to really outline for the government how we're going to execute on this program and deliver the value that that is required of this program. So as part of that, we don't want to operate in isolation here. So we launched the request for information to learn potential partners, service provider capabilities, case studies, rough order estimates on cost profiles. This is such a unique program relative to what GenEdge usually does on a day-to-day basis. We thought this would be a good idea to really understand the landscape of potential services and partners that could support the program. So as I just mentioned, our process here is to submit the white paper here in the next couple of months. And then we go right into a proposal for the government, which essentially outlines the plan. How are we going to get this done? And we're launching this RFI really to understand not just what the capabilities are out there, but also what maybe some of the challenges might be. So that's a quick overview. Now, I like showing this video because not everyone is familiar with these types of programs. So this is about a 1-minute video, but I think it gives a good idea of a similar type of vehicle that we're targeting here. I think the key is the video kind of gives you at least a visual idea of the program, something similar out there. I mean, really, when I look at the mobile vehicle, the mobile facility, for lack of a better term, I view it as the initial engagement with the small and mid-sized manufacturers, the bait on the hook, if you will, to expose them to some of these advanced technologies that they ordinarily would not be exposed to. As a small and mid-sized manufacturing decision maker, you're having to send folks to exhibitions or trade shows. And as I found, that tends to be a disjointed way to evaluate new technologies. And usually, as you all know, oftentimes the focus of who you're talking to is to sell you a piece of equipment and not necessarily evaluate how it may add value to your operation, which is really the focus of this program. I also threw up another case study here, the American Welding Society, which I thought, while they're much more focused on training and apprenticeship, that's a component of this. I thought they did a great job, great case study with that. It's the, I kind of call it the Making Welding Cool trailer, and they've done a great job with it. It's been around about 10 years, and they go around the country and really stir up interest with high school and vocational students to get them interested in welding as a profession. Similar to what we're doing here. Just a little bit on what we're doing, more related to how we might be a little different. So the design, the initial concept here is really a modular design for the facility. So the reason for the modularity is to provide some flexibility in bringing different suites of technologies to different clusters of industry, clusters of businesses, different regions of the state. As you all know, different sectors, different regions have different needs as it relates to advanced manufacturing technology. So I really like to focus the modularity here and managing that modularity so we're able to cater to the needs of those individual areas. And the different pieces, we kind of threw in some basic Industry 4.0 technologies into our demonstrator, our simulation, virtual welding. I really like this one, the autonomous ground vehicle, because one of my areas where I thought we could have extracted more value or reduce, or more succinctly reduce the lower value added activity was around material management. And having an AGV, and it's not cost prohibitive these days, could really help do that. But again, the technology is interesting, but you have to build a process around it. You have to do some testing. You have to do some analysis to really put the business case together, working alongside owner operators to convince them to some degree that these types of technologies can add value to their operation. Virtual reality, another one. really initially getting some exposure to these small, mid-sized manufacturers on the value of virtual 3D printing beyond just the poly, but also in the metallic 3D printing, and really kind of broadening perspectives on where it could fit in their operations: spares, maintenance, repair, new product concepts, prototyping. Really helping them evaluate the fit and how it could add value to their business. Cobot welding, again, like I said, right off the bat, around trying to generate more value from an existing workforce. Cobots are a great way to do that. So I won't go through this whole simulation, but we put one together just to kind of give an idea of how the layout might work. Let's see if I can speed it up here. So just a little more visual on the modularity and how it would work. So again, we only have 6 technologies highlighted here, but there'll be many more than that, and we'll drop modules in as we go to cater the individual sectors and individual geographies. So I won't spend too much time on this, but I've spent a few minutes on the facility and the vehicle, but around that, we're putting together a resource deployment. That's where you all come in and making this happen. The vehicle by itself is just a demonstrator. It does not by itself, that's not going to be a catalyst by itself to actually persuade too many to adopt advanced technologies in their operation. We need resources around that, and really working with decision makers on technology insertion roadmaps, validating business cases, testing, pilots, training. Those 4 in the middle there are critical. The vehicle and the marketing will do a lot of the assessing and informing up front. That's really the intent, is just to build awareness, inform, educate, do some demonstrations, but it's that middle part there around our resource deployment that is going to make or break our ability to actually accelerate the adoption of these technologies in small and mid-sized manufacturing companies. So that's where you all come in. You may have seen this on social media. I really like the visual Jeanette put together on the different service areas. And I wouldn't call this comprehensive. We've outlined in the RFI itself where we're trying to focus in order to support the program. And so this is a sampling. And if you go back to this page, you can probably add a half dozen service areas not covered here. So that's it. I think in 15 minutes, I was able to cover a lot of information. And so again, coming back to the RFI, we're trying to wrap this up by 5 p.m. on June 10th. And we'll have one more information session on Thursday if you have colleagues that were unable to make it today. So that's it in a nutshell. We can open up the floor to, finally, I can stop talking on PowerPoint and open up the floor to questions.
Okay, it looks like there is a question from Chris Giordano. He says, can you define specifically what devices or equipment you wish to see simulated or emulated in MTIP, especially around these options: advanced manufacturing, AR, VR, training and testing systems, digital simulations, and yeah, digital simulations?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so when we're talking about simulations, we're really talking about simulating the company's production environment with an advanced manufacturing technology that we believe would make it more efficient, increase the value add of their work. And so it could be anything on there. That when we talk about, and sometimes we'll throw out the term digital twin of the facility. That's really what we're talking about, is trying to build a math-based and as quickly as possible version of their facility to help them see it and visualize how this manufacturing technology can add value to their business. That's right. It's not necessarily targeting simulations for individual technologies. We want to simulate what the process could look like, what their production process could look like with some of this technology inserted.
Okay, and it looks like he added the trick is that if you do not have a baseline to start from specifically what is needed, then we have to design it as well as build it. That's where the real expense is.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. You need a baseline. Absolutely. Yeah, otherwise you can't really quantify what the value is to the business. So absolutely, you're spot on. I'm kind of focused on the technology piece, but yes, you're right. You have to actually plot out what the current operation is doing as accurately as possible, and it never will be 100%, in order to help the decision makers quantify what that delta is. I completely agree with you.
Okay, and it looks like we have another one that came in from Gary Daniels, and he stated, as a provider of the technologies presented today, such as Lincoln, FANUC, etc., I wanted to confirm when I respond to the RFI that I would be offering what type of simulators we can offer.
Sure. Confirm that respond to the offering what type of simulators we can offer. Yes, you can, and I think this is going to be the case with a lot of respondents, is you may bridge multiple service areas or technology areas. That's perfectly fine. And if you have your own brands, obviously some of you will, yes, please do. And please note what particular technology you're offering, what type of equipment or particular simulator, and the any of the functional details about that to help us. I'm not looking for, we're not looking for a novel here. Please feel free to refer us to resources you have online to further understand it. And so, yes, we're not, if you have a specific brand that you are, you'd like us to consider or help us understand what the capabilities may be, yeah, that shouldn't be an issue at all.
All right, and it looks like Mike Lee, he just dropped in one. He says, we provide SMM process improvement consulting and organizational leadership development. It's not clear to me how or when those services would be involved in the resource deployment.
Well, then I am doing a horrible job of communicating, because to me, that is probably one of the central services here, because quite honestly, I mean, when I simplistically summarize what we're doing here, it's process improvement. We're just leveraging advanced manufacturing technologies to do that. And so the process improvements, where I think some of the peripheral value is here is, what are the other process improvements that aren't necessarily driven directly, maybe they're driven indirectly by the implementation of this advanced manufacturing technology. So the process improvement piece of this is absolutely critical. It impacts everything when you start inserting these advanced technologies in your operation, and it needs to be understood. You'll be in position to help with the process risks, but also you mentioned organizational and leadership development. To me, I kind of put that as 1B as far as making this happen, because as you know, you're going to need a certain set of supervisory skills. Even at the top, honestly, you're going to need some different skill sets in order to make this work and follow a plan. It's a change management exercise, as you know. It's not just drop a piece of technology in and turn on the lights and everything's great. It not just impacts the process, as you know, but it impacts the organization. Understanding all that, where are the training gaps? Where are the skills gaps? Where are the people gaps? Maybe there are folks who just may not be able to come along the learning curve, and there's someone else in the operation. This is a promotional opportunity. I don't know. I'm just throwing out examples, but that's a key part of it as well. So Mike, I'm glad you brought it up, because for me, that is absolutely one of the most critical service resource pieces of this program. Nothing will happen without it.
All right, and Gary. Gary says thank you, and then he is asking, will this information session video be shared?
I don't see why not. Yep.
Okay, and Chris is stating that he needs a little bit more clarity on what we should be building in the simulation. So are you just looking for general simulation content, a car, an engine, a robotic arm, etc., that can be managed in virtual space for the simulation content along with training? Or do you need something specific from the manufacturers? If so, what equipment should we be focused on building for the RFI response?
Oh, that's a good question. Otherwise, you'll end up, writing an encyclopedia. So what I'd suggest, Chris, is picking a relevant technology. For example, I'll just throw out an example: a cobot welder. Okay, and say, okay, if I have and you can essentially put together an example. If I have an operation that looks like X, Y, Z, and you can make it as simple as possible, and I do my baseline this way. Now I am dropping in a cobot welder into this fabrication process. How would that simulation look? That's really what we're talking about. I'm not sure that that answers your question. I'm trying to make sure I get all the pieces here. Virtual space for simulation content along with the training, something different. And it's a great point on the training too. So there's two pieces to this, and maybe I'm confusing everyone. There's the I'll call the process development business case piece, where you are simulating the manufacturing operation baseline, as you said, and then you are adding an advanced technology to calculate the improvement. Then there's the training piece, which is its own animal. And so when you do the RFI response, that may be a great way to break it in pieces, because it sounds like you have some training capability there. Is okay, I hear what you're saying, Scott. If we're talking about the process development piece, that's this over here. If you're talking about training operators on maintenance or operation, then that's this over there. Did that answer your question?
So he did say yes. For example, we can build full aircraft and automobiles in virtual space where we send the maintenance training activities.
There you go. There. Perfect.
Right.
That's the training piece. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
And it looks like we have a question from Tony, and he says, could you describe how you might see this being used with or integrated into an AMT assessment? And do you envision this being monetized in any fashion?
I need a little bit more detail on that one, on what you're looking for there, Tony. This being monetized by whom? I assume you mean by the manufacturer.
I can go ahead and unmute if that would be helpful.
Yeah, would you please? Yeah.
Yep. I'll do that right now. Allow.
So yeah, if this is an MEP, so if the question is what's the business model for our MEP center, we're early on here. We're still sorting some of that out, but I'll give you my general philosophy on that. And I think leadership here at GenEdge would agree that the small and mid-sized manufacturers that are benefiting from this need to be stakeholders in this as well. This just can't be a, funding for the sake of funding. There needs to be at some point a commitment by the manufacturer, a monetary commitment by the manufacturer that they're committed to this. So yeah, I hopefully that answers your question on that.
They can unmute, So they do have the ability to unmute mics.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Scott. That does
Yeah.
answer my question.
Oh, great. Excellent. Yeah, just to reiterate, we are, we're in the discovery portion of our program. So this is fact finding. So we don't have the business model down yet. I even mentioned that we don't necessarily even have the menu of needed services outlined yet. I think we're gonna get into this and find out there are some that we are missing that we need to make sure we're highlighting. And I like the comment earlier around being a little bit more clear in our simulation needs around training versus process development and analysis. My old buddy Chris Nichols.
Hey, quick question, Scott. So we manufacture these mobile solutions, rather, and
I like that
so,
better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. And I was curious though, are you looking for someone to offer full deployment of these mobile training centers as well? Those are some of the questions that I have. It's really cool to see that you've got folks on here that have the technology and all of those components. From my perspective, and what we bring to the table are the actual vehicles or trailers and whatnot. And then then whatever technology you would want on the trailers and to be able to have offered, all of that would be, just added on. But I was curious to know if you're looking for people that actually deploy it. So say, for instance, you need to schedule, the welding in Herndon, for example, at some expo, IT expo or something like that, and you're gonna deploy it there and operate it for a while. Are you looking for someone to offer those services as well? Like, hey, show up, open it up, get it set up for business, and staff it for training? Or is that the part that GenEdge is going to provide, the staffing and setup and whatnot? I'm trying to understand that scope.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't think we're looking at the manufacturers to help with deployment. I know there's some manufacturers that also support logistics. I think we'd be much more interested in that component of it. As far as the deployment itself, we're open to service providers to partner with us on that, but it's so core to this program. We will be, really directly involved with that, whether it's with a partner or not. And so if there is a service provider out there who could support deployment, great. Are we just gonna, just kind of wave and let them run with the ball? Probably not. That's just too core to what we're trying to do here. But again, early on, we haven't set the model yet.
Okay. No, very good. Very good. Well, that exists out there. That's why I was just kind of curious. It's not something that we do currently.
Yep.
Thank you.
Got it. Thanks. See one more hand up there. Is that Clifford?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So I guess my question is I'm with New College Institute, and we are primarily a workforce development, advanced manufacturing entity. And I'm just curious, what are you looking for from the more traditional role of that workforce development training? What are you specifically looking for from us to be a contributor, and what you guys are looking to do?
Well, I like that question, because that's one of the intents of this RFI, to get your perspective on it, understanding what we are doing here, and where do you think you fit in a program like this? We've talked to a few, and sometimes the feedback is, we're in a support role. If you have a local business that has decided to move forward with a certain technology, There's some local entities throughout the state who voiced interest in supporting that in some way, shape, or form. Additional training and support. That tended to be the feedback. But again, we're all ears. If you see a different kind of role in support or having more involvement in the deployment, please put that in the RFI and outline how you think that might go, because that's a key part of this. We don't have all the answers. If you have some creative solutions on how you think your organization can plug in, please include that in the RFI response.
Well, I was just curious. The reason why I asked is because our facility is designed to work with local manufacturers and whatnot, and we can support a much larger area than could be deployed with a mobile technology center. However, with a mobile technology center on site, we could, of course, host those types of classes and be able to facilitate if you have larger groups. So that's kind of where I was looking to go with our RFI. Thank you.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a great idea. And I think Chris had one more. Chris, you have another question?
No, it's a different Chris Giordano.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for putting this together, Scott. I was wondering if you could give an idea of what kind of manufacturers you guys are trying to target on this. Like, what are they building? What are they doing? And the reason I ask kind of goes back to that original question that I asked about what type of content. So, we typically build out actual full virtual maintenance training devices for aircraft and for spacecraft and cars and all kinds of things. And the problem is, if we don't have something specific to build to, then you find yourself actually designing that thing as well. And so if we know what kind of manufacturers you're going to target, we can put in our RFI response, hey, we would be looking at building this type of a device in virtual space and showing you how to assemble, disassemble, and so on and so forth, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think due to the target audience here, right? I mean, this is going to be off-the-shelf technology. None of these folks are going to be able to customize, not heavily. There's some customizing from a functional standpoint available for technologies like cobots, but in general, this is going to be, for lack of a better term, an off-the-shelf solution. So
Understood.
what I would suggest, again, not to be repetitive, is, we know who the leaders are in cobots, picking, and it doesn't mean that if you pick a brand, that's fine. It doesn't, for commercially, it doesn't mean anything to us necessarily. It's just more, how are you thinking about the solution? So if you need to pick one off the shelf and say, this cobot from this manufacturer, this is how we would approach it, that'd be great for us, and try to understand where you fit in.
But you don't have kind of like a target list of the manufacturers you guys are going to be trying to help out with this technology, right?
Not yet. It's all the players you could imagine at this point. We're all ears.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Yep. We're a little past time, so we'll make sure we get to all the questions. There's another one on Thursday. All right. Well, we'll wrap it. Thanks everyone taking their time here on a Tuesday afternoon. We're really excited about the program, as you can tell, so we look forward to your responses. If you have any questions between now and June 10th, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to working with you here and over the next month or two.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Scott.